this portion and put it on the link, and then we'll see how that works, and then not record the group discussion just for privacy concerns. So welcome everyone. Happy New Year's. Happy New Year's Eve. I wanted to talk this morning about learning as a practice. Okay. And there is no end to learning in this life, and certainly not on this path that we walk together. Someone said, a philosopher once said, that he spent a whole day ruminating, but it was not as good as a moment's learning. And I'm not talking here about book learning. I'm talking about experiential learning, lived experience. Those flashes of insight, those new awarenesses that come to us. For example, mental resilience, constantly adapting to new circumstances, how we make use of our given abilities. That's not book learning. That's what we learn psychologically. That's what we learn emotionally. That's what we begin learning in preschool, interacting with our peers. And we learn mental resilience the same way we learn anything else, but largely it's lived experience. We learn it through our interactions with others and through our interactions with the world in which we live. And the best kind of learning, I think, gets us out of our heads, especially when we're talking about the Dharma. In the West, we spend so much time in our heads, disconnected from experience, disconnected from the natural world. And this is why in this community, I rarely talk about sort of the formal Buddhist teachings. I don't want it to become a didactic, sort of pedantic exercise. I don't want to reinforce an intellectual approach to the Dharma. I want to emphasize a lived Dharma, a practical Dharma, as I call it, day to day. Life is to be lived and relished, not studied and analyzed. And I'm not saying there's no place for study and analysis. I'm just saying, in terms of our life and our life's path, it's not an intellectual exercise. It's a lived experience. Dogen, who is the 13th century Japanese Buddhist monk, well known certainly in Zen circles, he was a writer, a poet, a philosopher, founder of the Soto school of Zen. He said, one should try and learn even from earth, stones, sand, and pebbles. One should try and learn even from earth, stones, sand, and pebbles, each of which he believed had something to teach us. And this is a more expansive view of learning. He said the truth of all the Buddhas is prized and preserved everywhere. So again, experiential lived experience, but equally important in this learning paradigm that I'm talking about is what we have to unlearn. Okay. We have to unlearn certain beliefs, certain dispositions that get in the way of seeing life as it is, not the way we want it to be. Unlearn the ego's demands and biases. Unlearn the ego's preoccupation with that solid self that illusion of solid self that we talked about on Wednesday. Unlearn our old patterns, unlearn our old conditioning. Again, seeing life as it is, not as we wish it were. And here is where, again, the importance of community, the importance of Sangha. Because part of what we do here is we see experience of others, which help us see our own blind spots. We learn from each other. We learn, oh, gosh, so, Judith shared this, and I never thought about that. That's a blind spot for me. Now I get it. The value of that, the richness of that, of community, of learning together, of walking this path together. It's why we do it. It's one of the reasons we do it. I mean, we do it for other reasons as well. Community, connection, sharing, and so forth. But every time we meet, I come away with a new awareness, with a shift in perspective, something I've learned from something someone said. I do not come away from our meetings without some new learning. Okay. And I so value that. I so appreciate that. I am so grateful for the fact that we come together and learn from each other on this very complicated at times path that we walk. As has been written, quote, as the fathomless sea is said to have just one taste, so too Buddha's teaching and training is to have a single taste, that of freedom. As the fathomless sea is said to have just one taste, so too the Buddha's teaching and training is said to have a single taste, that of freedom. So here we're talking about, not a surface study of the Dharma, as I said, not an academic intellectual study of the Dharma. Not that we shouldn't know that, not that we shouldn't know, the 6 of this and the 5 of that and the 10 of that. I mean, that's an important context, it's framework, but it doesn't really let us plunge deeply into the teachings. That's experiential, that's lived, that's not an intellectual exercise. You can't intellectualize your way through the Dharma and expect to really move on this path. That's why we embrace a model of wide learning, of experience learning, of shared learning in Sangha. What with so many teachers and true friends, the learning never stops. We never stop learning from each other. So as you think about it, and as we move into discussion, think about where's your learning, and more importantly, maybe where is your unlearning shown up in your practice, shown up in our Sangha? Where do you see this in terms of your own path? So let's have some discussion about that. Let me stop the recording.